Welcome back to Flooded Temples, everyone. As promised, today we're going to try and figure out what actually powered these temples in Egypt. Yes, I know. Didn't I say last episode it was the lightning hitting the obelisk that was powering these temples? And that when the lightning hit the obelisk, that sound waves shot out of the quartz blocks into the water below? That all of this was done to create cavitating water to separate the precious minerals in it? I did say all that. But the thing is, these ancient Egyptian temples still needed a reliable power source. Even if you build your lightning-powered temple where it's always stormy, or even if you create storms for your newly built lightning-powered temple, you still don't have a very good chance that lightning's going to hit it. What you really need to do is you need to attract the lightning to your temple, and you got to turn your temple into an active lightning rod. What is an active lightning rod? Well, it's exactly as it sounds. It actively attracts lightning bolts to it so they don't just strike anywhere. All the active lightning rod needs to do is it needs to build a positive charge on the top of it. Because even though lightning likes to hit tall things, especially if there's only one tall thing around, it can't resist tall and positively charged things when it gets a chance to strike. There's two different types of active lightning rods on the market today. One is powered using magnetism, and the other one is powered using the piezoelectric effect. You probably remember in the last episode that the piezoelectric effect is when a quartz crystal is deformed, or essentially squished, and it gives off a little electric charge. Well, in today's version of the piezoelectric lightning rod, it's the same process that puts the positive charge on top. When the wind from the oncoming storm vibrates the quartz crystals inside, it charges up the rod to attract the lightning. In the last episode, you'll remember my hypothesis about what happens when a lightning bolt hits an obelisk is that by using the reverse piezoelectric effect, its base becomes an oscillator in the water. Well, I think to turn these obelisks into active lightning rods, the only thing you'd really need to do is instead of using the reverse piezo effect to turn these things into oscillators, why not use another oscillator to shoot sound waves through the water at the obelisk to charge them up using the regular piezoelectric effect? That could work. What if we could find some sort of resonant chamber in a temple to put the oscillator in? And when the waves they create came out of the chamber, they would hit the base of all the obelisks. Let's take a look at the Karnak Temple and see what we can see. Wait a second here, what is this? Is this the sanctuary? Could this be the remains of the ancient Egyptian oscillator that we've been looking for? I think so. I actually think there's a really good chance that all these stone sarcophagi found in the different pyramids and temples of Egypt are all doing the same thing. I think they were oscillating. And so here we are, back where we started. We want to know what powered these oscillators and ultimately what attracted the lightning. What was in these boxes? Well, just hold your camels, guys, just for a couple more seconds. Because before we get to that, I just want to talk about one quick thing. I want to talk about resonant chambers. I want to take a second to discuss resonant chambers and why the position of an oscillator in a resonant chamber would be important for stacking sound waves. If you have a resonant chamber that's closed at one end, you'll always have what's called a node on the wall at the closed end. A node is a location of low pressure. The lowest fundamental frequency of a resonant chamber is the lowest frequency in which the chamber can sustain a standing wave, which is also called the first mode or first harmonic. As you can see here, a quarter of a wavelength will fit inside the cavity, leaving the antinode flush with the end of the cavity. This fundamental frequency isn't the only frequency that will create standing waves inside of the resonant chamber. All that is needed is for the node to stay at the back wall and for the antinode of the wavelength to stay flush with the opening of the chamber, like you see here for the fundamental frequency of the chamber, and here for the third, and for the fifth, and for the seventh harmonics. The third, fifth, and seventh harmonics of the fundamental frequency of the chamber are all resonant frequencies of the chamber. So where am I going with this? Well, I've always guessed that where the ancient Egyptians put these oscillators in the sanctuaries was no accident, and I wondered if it would be best to put an oscillator in the position of a node or an antinode inside of one of these sanctuaries. So I searched it. It turns out for the maximum effect, you need to put the oscillator in the position of an antinode in one of these chambers. Because antinodes are the points of maximum amplitude in a standing wave, which means that it'll give it the most freedom of movement. I decided to do a search to see if I could find out what the fundamental frequency of the sanctuary at the Karnak Temple is if it was flooded with water. Something to remember is that sound waves move faster through water than they do through air, so the fundamental frequency of a chamber will change once it's filled with fluid. AI came up with a guess of 98 Hz for a fundamental frequency for the Karnak sanctuary. So what I'm thinking, and if you have any ideas, please leave them in the comments below, is maybe if you measure off the back of the sanctuary and you line up that measurement with the first antinode of either the 3rd, 5th, or 7th harmonic, you could figure out what harmonic the oscillator was positioned to be in, and maybe guess at what frequency it was tuned to. Now, without any further ado, folks, let me give you my hypothesis on what was powering these oscillators and enabling them to emit sound waves into the water. I think it was RPGs. RPGs? An RPG is a radioisotope piezoelectric generator. It's a type of generator that converts energy stored in radioactive material into motion. It uses moving cantilevers that are attached to a piezoelectric material to deform it. The cantilevers are mounted above a radioactive isotope. And when the radiation decays in the form of beta radiation, which consists of electrons, the cantilever starts collecting those electrons and builds up a negative charge. As the cantilevers become more and more negatively charged, magnetism starts to bend them towards the radioactive isotopes. Eventually, as the gap between the cantilever and the isotope gets small enough, a spark will shoot across it, evening out the charge and resetting the cantilever. They use a very similar process today when they need a battery that'll work in very cold environments and solar panels aren't an option. Things like satellites and space probes. As long as the isotope is decaying, which is a process that can last for decades, the cantilevers will continue their up and down motion. It's amazing. Well, that's it for today's episode, guys. Thanks again for watching. On the next episode of Flooded Temples, I'm going to take us to the Luxor Temple, and I'm going to show you where the mining process starts and where it ends. We're also going to look at how the ancient temples were tuned when the temperature got out of whack. And maybe even find out what all these false doors are that are found throughout the temples in Egypt. So if you like this type of content and you want to see what else is coming up, then please like and subscribe. All right then, all the best to you.